Welcome to the Female Founder Unplugged podcast, a show for women entrepreneurs who want to build, grow, and lead successful businesses and high-performing teams. I'm your host, Lindsay White, leadership coach and people strategy expert, here to bring you unplugged conversations with a variety of amazing guests who share expert advice and real actionable people strategies for your growing business. Ready to get unplugged? Let's jump in. Fantastic. Welcome to another fabulous episode of the Female Founder Unplugged podcast. And we're going to get super unplugged today. I have my friend, Megan Dalla-Camina, with me. And she's the founder and CEO of Rising Women. She's the author of a book by that same name. She is an incredible founder, a recognized leader in women's empowerment, which I love. You know, she's really a sought after commentator, but actually we were just talking before we hit record. We're going to get under the hood, talk a lot about our business, but we're going to talk about what it means to be a leader in our business. Megan's got so much to offer in this space. So thank you for being here with me. I am so grateful to have you on the show to talk about this stuff.
Thanks, Lindsay. I'm excited. I love talking in the business. So yeah, really excited.
Yeah, that's the hard part. It's actually the stuff we do, we're awesome at, we do really well. It's actually the business of running a business that I always think is the hardest part. That's just me, because I'm an accidental entrepreneur. But okay, first of all, tell us about your journey. How did you become a female founder?
I never thought I would be a female founder, so let's start there. I never aspired to have my own company. I worked in corporate America for 18 years and in small business before that. So I had this really long executive career, companies like IBM, PricewaterhouseCoopers, GE, in like really senior roles. Like I was a career corporate woman.
Yeah.
And I loved it until I didn't, and it served me until it didn't. So about 11 years ago, I left my corporate career to start my own business. And that's been I think if you ever want to go on a journey of deep personal development, start a company. Like what's new, right? Go start a business and then get like strap yourself in, right? So I've been 11 years in business. Women Rising, my company, has been around for 4 years. We're going into our 5th year. And yeah, like my business journey has been as a coach, as a teacher, as a speaker, as an author. I've written 4 books. I wrote the first one when I was still in my corporate career, to my last one, Women Rising, which has just come out. And then really the last 4 years has been building and scaling the Women Rising movement and programs, which we can talk about. So yeah, it's been interesting, as most founders would know.
Yeah, interesting's a word they use to describe entrepreneurship.
One word. There are others.
There are lots of other words. Some of them we won't use on the show today. No, but I think, it is the business of actually building and growing and running a business is really challenging. It's really challenging. Yeah. I love this idea of women rising. Tell me more about that. Where did that come from? What was the inspiration for that?
When I was in my corporate career, particularly the last 10 years where I was at IBM, I was head of strategy for the business in a $5 billion division of the business. And I was also head of gender diversity. So I was like the executive sponsor, if you will. And in the middle of that period, I had a really severe burnout and gave up. At that time, I was director of marketing, the job that I'd worked for my entire career. And I gave up that job because I was a single parent to a 5-year-old. I was trying to study. I was trying to do this job in this very male-dominated environment. And it just, like I burnt myself out in the worst way. And then for the last 5 years of my corporate career, I was really trying to figure out, like, how do we do this as women? How do we have a career we're passionate about, raise our families, or, be part of our communities if we don't have kids, and do it and be thrivingly well?
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the tools to do that. and then how do we get more women into positions of leadership so that
Yeah.
we can change the dynamics? So that then has become the last 15, 16 years of my journey, culminating in Women Rising. And what we do, we are a leadership and empowerment company for women with this singular mission to help women rise. And we do it through lots of free things, free content, free coaching, free tools, but also through our signature Women Rising program,
Love
which
it.
is a 4-month virtual program where we take women on this holistic personal professional development journey. And that has scaled beyond my wildest dreams because I think we hit, when you hit that zeitgeist moment in your business with the
Yeah.
right offer at the right time for the right conversation. Pre-COVID, that's what happened, and it just exploded. So yeah, we're in 73 countries now with the
Oh,
with the
that's
program.
amazing. I mean, just the whole concept, and I'm glad I asked that question. The whole concept of, women rising, the power and the energy just in that sort of phrasing, to me is really dramatic. It's really energizing. And so not surprising that so many women have embraced that idea, right? Kind of like that phoenix from the ashes, especially with your own
Yeah.
burnout story. Like I really love that.
Thank you. Yeah, it kind of really hit a spot, and the book is hitting that same spot, especially with everything going on in the world around women right now.
Yeah.
Like these are conversations that we have to have, and we
Yeah.
have to shift this power paradigm that we are in. And empowering women is one side of it, getting men to step up alongside women and be allies for
Yeah.
change, which is the other part of the work that we do as well.
I love, and that's such an important part of the conversation. I'm on a couple, serve on a couple nonprofit boards. One of them is for Lean In. Of course, the book and the organization formed by Sheryl Sandberg, the
Yeah.
former COO of Facebook. The truth is, Facebook is what it is because Sheryl made it that way. Like Zuck isn't that smart. Let's just be clear. She was the brains of the operation. And then also just recently joined the board of Next Gen Men, which is all about raising young men to be great allies, to be, in touch with what are the important parts of them, to break that barrier of, boys don't cry and real men only do these,
Yeah.
right? Like, and so for me, it's two sides of the same conversation. And I really appreciate that we as women have to be able to engage and empower our male allies. And there are lots of great men out there who believe that women are absolutely as talented and skilled, and they just do it differently, and that's totally okay.
Yes, I just and I love that you just shared that, right? So we're so on
Yeah,
the same
totally.
wavelength on this. And here's what we see for men. We work in about 700 organizations. 77% of men want to be part of the solution for gender
They
balance
do.
in
Yeah.
organizations. But they don't, vast majority of them don't know what to do. They're scared of doing the wrong thing, and they
Yes.
don't have the tools. And the other part that I see, because we have a male allies program, the other thing that I see with the men coming into that program is most of them think that they're allies. But what they very quickly realize is they're good guys, but they're not acting as active allies and advocates. And that's the shift that we have to make. And that's the work that we're doing.
I love that differentiation. I think that's really important. Being a good guy versus being an ally. I
Yes.
think that that is absolutely critical. It's the same, I think on the other side, it's the same thing as being a nice girl versus being a powerful woman, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we get caught up in these programmed conversations. And until someone actually shows us that it can be different, it's actually really hard to see, right? I mean, that's some operating system stuff. We come front end
Yeah.
loaded with a lot of that.
We do. And that's exactly why I wrote Women Rising. Like
Yeah.
that whole first part of that book is around breaking down patriarchy and what I call the 6 paradoxes of power that are these forces that hold us back as women. And so often we're like the fish swimming in the water. We don't know what water is, we're just in it.
Yeah.
Till
Yeah.
someone like holds up the card and says, this is a paradox that you're living in,
Yes.
the empowerment paradox, the leadership paradox, the motherhood paradox, etc. And then what I'm finding, women are going, oh, that's why this is the way that it is.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel the way that I feel, and I can choose something different for myself.
Yes.
That's empowerment. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the conversation we
That
want to have.
and that nobody's giving you the answers. Nobody's necessarily carving the path. It's just that recognition that, wait a minute, I get to choose something different. I get to make this look different than it is. I can make
Yeah,
choices. I have options.
yeah,
That's cool stuff.
yeah. And I can feel differently
Yes.
about my career, about my business, how I am in my business, about my life when I have all of the information
Yeah.
and when I understand that, like, these are the machinations of the fabric of the world that we live in.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that. I get that better. I understand that better now. And I can make a different choice for myself.
Yeah. You know, I love that. I mean, I work with my business. I'm very lucky. I get to work with some really incredible female founders, but I also coach some great guys, right?
Mm.
And just the idea that you examine what is that operating system? What are those paradigms that you examine them, that you appreciate them for what they are and potentially what they have served. You understand where they're not serving, and then
Mm.
you recognize that, wait a minute, I get to choose. I get to show up differently. I get to challenge the trash talk in my own head. This mom guilt, like, right? Like some of these pieces that we carry with us, that I get to challenge that,
Yeah.
right? Um, that is so provoking and so unsettling. Like it's uncomfortable work, but it is so interesting to walk beside someone as they go through that
Yes.
conversation. As an entrepreneur in particular, because I think we just get challenged with that all the time. But whether if you're a leader in an organization, if you're a man and you get to fit, like these are just such beautiful, challenging, thought-provoking conversations.
Yes, yes. And I love that you brought out the voice, right? That we have in our head and the stories we tell ourselves
Yeah.
because, the model that I built for the book around the 13 archetypes of the inner critic, like we all have this
Yeah.
inner critic.
Yeah.
And when we understand that, and we really understand what's my flavor? Am I the perfectionist, the people pleaser, the
Yeah.
overachiever? Like,
Yeah.
what is it? Then we get the tools. Because so many of us are walking around, particularly as women, we've got these stories running our lives. We don't, number one, understand that it's a story.
Yeah.
And number two, we certainly don't have the tools to, for
No,
most of us to deal with that, which was my experience, and I see with thousands and thousands of women every year.
100%. I had a client describe it as the pain tape. And it is this conversation that rolls over and over and over in our head. We so often say the same things to ourselves over and over. I find sometimes it's so valuable to give it a persona, like really um, give it color, give it structure, give it a name. But we all have it, right? We all have this conversation. And once you recognize what it is and what it says, and that's painful work. Like, let's be clear, right?
Yeah.
You and I, Megan, we know that that's not easy to do. But once you recognize it for what it is, the rest of the work actually transpires pretty organically. You still got to do it, but it's uncovering what that conversation, the trash talk in your own head is. That's the big step. Once you know what it's talking about, then you can start to use those tools and techniques to unwind
Mm.
that conversation. And man, that's freeing. Doesn't mean it's going to go away altogether, but at least you know what you're working with.
Yes. And we have to wake up to what those stories are that we tell ourselves.
100%.
Yeah. And to be able to really step into that work, as you say, which is work. It's not, sometimes it's not a picnic, sometimes it is. But
Yeah,
other times, once I find that it's really helpful to have a framework to work within
100%.
that so that we're not just kind of floundering around in the dark. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. You need the tools. I love that you've developed something. I do some work that's similar to that. You just need the right tools to be able then to manage that conversation. And everybody's conversation is going to sound a little bit different. We all
Yeah.
come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different families. But man, it's really powerful when you can start to manage your own thoughts and then your own behaviors instead of just reacting. You're working on a whole nother level at that point.
Yeah, it will literally change your life.
Yeah, 100,
Just waking up to the stories that you tell yourself will literally change your life.
100%. I don't use the word transformation lightly because I think it gets bantied around.
It
People
does.
the people use transformation all the time and it kind of cheapens the brand, if you will. But you're right. I think that that work is truly transformational. I think
Mm.
once you lean into that, all the other dominoes start to line up, right?
Mm.
You can really
Yeah.
manage a lot of other hard shit in your life, once you manage the trash talk in your own head. I love it. I love it. This is so cool. I love these conversations. They're so powerful. I want to ask you about your leadership. I mean, four books, a business in, you said 70 plus countries. I mean, that is a big, beautiful business. I want to ask you about your leadership. How do you stay present as a leader inside of your own organization?
Yeah, look, it's such a great question. It's a great founder question, I
Hmm.
think. Like how I lead in my own company
Yes,
is very different to how I used to lead in corporate America.
sure. Yeah.
And because again, I didn't have the skills and I wasn't
Yeah.
savvy to the leadership paradox that we operate in out in the world, which says we want you to lead, but don't lead like that. Like lead like it's always been done. Lead like a
Yes.
man,
Yes.
right? Lead in a masculine model.
Yes.
And that's how I lead and how so many women lead when they're working in organizations. But with my journey over the last 15 years and being in my own company, I have a couple of principles that I lead by.
Yeah.
Heart first is the first one.
Yeah.
Heart first. So everything comes from the heart, of course. Like I'm a strategist. I used to run strategy for
Sure.
a $5 billion company, but it's very much about people, and the principles of, like I very much run a self-led team.
Yeah.
They have incredible women where, by women for women. There's 12 people in my company right now. So we're lean as well, which I really like. Everybody works flexibly. Everybody, even if they people work full time, they still work flexibly. They basically
Yeah.
choose their own hours, just like I do, the way that I work. And like we have a lot of we're a well-oiled machine. Like, so we
Yeah.
have very great systems and processes and structures
Yeah.
and tech, and we're basically a tech company. Um, but I lead my team the way that I would like to be led if I was in this business. So there's a lot of freedom within structure. And I think structure brings freedom.
Sure.
When you have those structures in place and the systems and everything else that underline and make the engine
Yeah.
run, which you have to for the size of
Yeah.
program we run, then there's a lot of freedom in that. Well, how am I going to work and how are we going to, collaborate and connect with each other?
Yeah.
So yeah, does that give you a bit of a
Yeah,
give
no,
you a bit
I like it a
of
lot. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you letting us kind of peek under the hood in your business because I think that that's so critical, especially a lot of the women that listen to this show are in the process of scaling, and some of them scaling pretty dramatically, right? They've got beautiful businesses that are growing very organically, that are growing very rapidly. And it's
Mm,
how do I
yeah,
manage all of this? When I
yeah,
did come out of corporate with great tools or great examples of what it means to lead, and to hear you say that it is okay to lead with my heart and my head, right?
yes,
It can
both
be both.
feminine and masculine, right? We need
Yeah,
both of those
it's
things in
both.
business. I want to this point that you just raised, which is so many women, like how do you scale?
Yeah.
And how do you scale with your sense of self intact,
Hmm.
with your team intact, without burning yourself out, without
Yes.
burning your team out?
Yes.
without burning your clients out, right?
Yeah,
Like that
yeah.
whole ecosystem
Yes.
is like trying to find the secret sauce in that is incredibly challenging.
Yes.
And we've been in that phase for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Is, we went with our pilot program and it just exploded and it's continuing to grow really
Oh,
quickly. So, like, I think that intentionality and
yes.
alignment around, well, what are my values in my business? What are my values as a leader? What culture do I want to create? And knowing when you're in and out of alignment with that. Like, we've had some periods where we've,
Yeah.
been had a really fast part of growth, or we've been in launch mode for our program, and you just feel as a leader, oh, like this is not sustainable.
Yeah.
This year we continue to scale, and we released a global book. And like, we've got to the end of this year, and I said to you when we started, oh, I'm feeling it's 3 weeks to the end, right? We're coming to the end of the book launch, the
Yeah.
end of the year, and I can feel like the whole team, like, we're shutting down
Yeah.
over Christmas and January. I'm like, everyone just
Yeah.
go break, go take a break,
Go
because
take a
you
break.
have to know as a founder
Yeah.
what is the line that you are walking,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
when is it time to come into that rest and
Yes.
renewal period in your business.
I really appreciate that. And you said something just a moment ago about you have to be quite intentional. And I that's certainly what I preach is
Mm.
that as you grow your business, you have to be intentional about your growth. You have to be intentional about the growth in your team. You need a strategic approach. This so often gets missed as we grow because we have a marketing strategy and we have a plan for this and a plan for that. We got a business plan, and we got goals, and we forget about what is the plan for the talent, the people that are going to
Yes.
deliver all that work. We got to be intentional about our culture, right? We have to think carefully about how are we going to work together? How are we going to connect? That's what makes the work beautiful and meaningful. And then, having the right processes and the right automate, like those things make it easier. But if you don't have the right people doing the right things at the right times,
Yeah.
all the process in the world is not going
Not
to
going to help you.
save you from
Yeah.
bringing yourself and your business to the ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the like the old model, and it's not even an old model because it's still out there, right? That bro culture, hustle culture,
Yeah.
scale at any
No.
cost model. That, like, women get sucked into that
Yes.
because it looks so glossy and shiny, and, well, if I just do this, okay, like, the goal
Yes.
needs to be scale at any cost. And that, for most of us as women, does not serve us, is not in
No.
alignment. And we need to see this different way of doing business. And that's
Mm.
really, and especially coming out of corporate, and like, that is, you
Sure it
will
is.
succeed at any cost. There's a whole lot of reprogramming
Yeah.
that has to happen, unlearning,
Yes.
before we can really settle into, well, what is in alignment and true for me, and how do I create that
Yeah.
in my business?
It is. I mean, we do. I mean, we come loaded with so many things, right? From our family of origin, from the way we were raised, from the culture we're in, maybe the religion that we practiced, and then the corporate environment that we existed in. And hey, listen, we come away with some good things. We come away with some not so good things. And that's the tricky part is sometimes to figure out which which is serving us and which isn't. I mean, that in itself is hard. But you said it. I think when you are deeply connected and aligned with your values, like what you care about most, that's what values are. When you're really clear about what those are, you're really clear about how you get more of that, the behaviors.
Mm.
When you're clear, you bring clarity into your business. Then people know what your expectations are. They know how to show up as an
Yeah.
employee or even as a contractor. When you can have clarity and you can bring that clarity to the people that work for you, that creates a great work culture. That creates a really positive place of belonging. That creates happy clients because, like you said, they know what to expect from you too. You don't burn them to the ground.
Mm.
I think values are so key in all of this. Megan, you said it. Values to you sound like they're very important as well.
I mean, values are the bedrock of everything, right? And I think
Yeah.
as founders, we can get ourselves into a lot of trouble if we're not really clearly
Yes.
anchored in our values. And like we talk about clarity, like have clarity in your business and how you want to show up and where you're going. Like it's a lot harder than it sounds,
Oh, yeah.
as we know, right? Like to have absolute clarity in your business, like this is who I am, here are my values, here are the values that we're going to operate the business by, and here's the clarity for the direction in which we're going and what we're going to say yes to, what we're going to say no to, what's a yes now, what's a maybe later. They're hard decisions.
Well, there's always seems to be something that's trying to pull you off track. I think
Well,
that's
there's always the shiny thing, right?
there's
Like, oh,
yes,
just
the
go over
shiny
here.
objects. Yes.
The shiny
Yes.
object, always. Yeah.
Well,
And
it's
and I
right.
find,
Like the bro
yeah.
marketing, we see this stuff. It looks beautiful. It's so enchanting. And
Well, it
so
looks
many don't.
enchanting,
It
right?
looks
It looks
enchanting.
enchanting.
Yes.
It's actually not when you're in it.
Yeah,
And
no.
I think most of us who are listening, most people who are listening to this, I'm sure will have experienced some of that, where you just get sucked in and you're halfway down that path and you're like, hang on a minute, what am I doing? We
Yeah.
don't want to be doing this. We're meant to be over here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
we
like
all had
we've
one of
all done
those.
it. Yeah, we've
How
all
did
done it.
I get here? Like, hang on a
Yes,
second. I think the coolest thing is there's always an opportunity to revector, to reset, and most importantly, to take a pause. Like you said it, rest is an active state. We have to know when it is the right time to just set it down and back away slowly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And it has to be a non-negotiable, right? Like
Yeah.
rest and restoration and renewal, they
Yes.
have to be baked in non-negotiables
Yeah.
to our business. And we've also got to understand, and I've learned this the hard way. Okay, when we're in a peak mode, for so
Yeah.
many of the listeners, when we're in scale mode, that's when we double down on our renewal, not when we put it to the side for when we come out of peak
Yeah.
mode, go into like, okay, well, we're in a rest period of our business now. Now I can rest. No, 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 no. Right? Resilience is about renewal, not endurance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have
Oh,
to
that's
build it in.
say that again. That was a good one. Say that again.
Resilience is about renewal, not about endurance. It's not how hard and how far you can run and how much grit you have. It's about how you renew yourself and restore yourself along that path.
Love it.
Particular all the time, but particularly if you're scaling your business.
Love it. Yeah, that was beautifully said. Thank you for offering that. Like for me and for all of us, I do think that we forget that, right?
We do.
And resilience only comes through the rest, through the restoration, through that renewal process. And that's what's so key in being a great entrepreneur is you have to be able to bounce, right? Like you have to be able to recover effectively so that you can keep moving forward because it's a roller coaster ride,
It
right? Being
really
an
is.
entrepreneur is like being on the biggest roller coaster at Six Flags. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy. And that's why, like, you have to like buckle up, right? Like, strap yourself in. But like, can we strap ourselves in with, like a face mask on and some bubble bath and a cup of herbal tea and like, a yoga mat? Can we strap ourselves in with all of that so that we're not just on
Yeah.
that bumpy ride? Yeah,
Yeah.
because it is tough, and we have to know. Like, I would love for all founders and entrepreneurs to understand, like, what is your tipping point?
Yeah.
But never have to reach it. So that you know that if you are, if you're at level 2 and you know that your tipping point is level 6, like you stop there. And
Yeah.
that's when you restore and renew and get yourself and your business and your team on track.
100%. 100%. And I think it's absolutely critical. I hear from business owners almost every day, whether they're clients or they're in my own network,
Mm.
I'm not good at setting boundaries. And I think that in fact what that is that what they're actually saying is I'm not clear on what I value the most. I'm not clear on what constitutes max capacity for me. I'm not clear about why I'm even doing this in the first place. And that all of that is really being neglected. No wonder we can't set a boundary to protect anything. We don't know what we're protecting anymore. We don't even know why we're running this business. We don't know what we're doing here. And that makes it hard to even contemplate, what does this resilience piece mean for me? Like, there's real personal attachment to that. It's not just a
Mm.
word.
Yes. And how do you know? And I come up against this with the women I work with all the time and myself. Like, how do you know what you're saying yes to and what you're saying no to if
Right?
you're not clear on what are we doing here?
Yeah, yeah. Like, what's the
Right?
purpose?
Exactly. What's the purpose? What are we doing here? And therefore, what is in alignment with that?
Yeah.
And what is in alignment for me? Like, if you don't know how you want to feel and show up in your business,
Yeah.
then how could you possibly know
Yeah,
whether
totally.
you're operating truly or not the way that you really want to be?
I got to tell you, one of the most powerful things in my life, when I was doing my coaching designation, this would be 6, 7 years ago, my first designation, one of the tools, and we were working in a peer group, right? So I really developed some incredible relationships and received some incredible peer coaching as we were learning together. One of the tools that we learned to use, and I still use today with my coaching clients, is actually creating a life purpose statement. And I know that sounds a little bit woo woo, but the truth is actually having a statement that is all mine, that defines what I am on this planet to create, has been incredibly powerful in helping me, especially in those tricky moments when I feel like I'm losing my direction.
Yeah.
It has been the piece that has helped me connect back to, wait a minute. Why did I say yes to this? Is this really a yes? Should this be a no? What am I doing here?
What am I doing here? Yes.
That has been super powerful to me over the years, to use that as a bit of a yardstick.
Mm.
And then
Mm.
bring that into my bit. So my life purpose is to be the high voltage extension cord that connects others to their own inner brilliance. Well, that's why it's high voltage leadership, because that's
Mm.
who I'm meant to be. So then when I bring that into my business, well, that's what we're meant to create in the world, is we're meant to ignite others' voltage, their energy, right? I think when you have pieces like that that you can really look to in those moments of chaos, I think that's really powerful in establishing, where do I need to rest? Where does my resilience live? Like those questions that we're ask ourselves as entrepreneurs all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
the life vision piece of work is for me, it's the most important work. It's the
100%.
most important work that we do. It's the first, in part 3 of the Women Rising book, we go through the tools. The first tool is life vision. Like,
Mhm.
how do you get clarity? Or like, I just articulated it so beautifully.
Yeah.
And mine is to help women rise. That's my purpose
Yeah.
statement. That's my guiding
Beautiful.
compass statement.
Yeah.
And everything falls under that. So yeah, like I agree. Like everyone, we all need to do that work and get that level of clarity
Yeah.
in our personal lives and also for our professional lives and our businesses.
Well, especially because we put our heart and soul into our business. And
Yeah,
let's be honest, I mean, you and I, we're talking today from our houses, right? Like we live with our business. And so
yeah,
if we aren't clear about who we are and what we care about most, how can we help anybody else? I mean, you've got employees, I've got like, how do we help them figure it out? How do we
yeah,
create a place where they feel like they can live their vision?
yeah,
Because that's what we
yeah.
want.
And how do we as founders and as business owners do something that is meaningful
Yes. Yes.
and that serves other people in a meaningful way?
Yes.
Like I'm always asking the question, and I'm an academic as well. Part of my background's in positive psych, and like this appreciative inquiry question, like for the sake of what?
Yeah.
For the sake of what am I showing up today? For the
Yeah.
sake of what am I having this conversation? For the
Yeah.
sake of what did I just write another book? For the sake of what, am I doing my PhD? Like all of these pieces, like it really anchors back into that purpose.
Yeah. It
This is
does.
why, and this is why it matters, and this is why that's in alignment or not, right?
Yes.
Sometimes that question throws up,
Yes.
well, there really is no purpose behind this. So let's put that aside. And then there's boundary, right? Like this question around
Love it.
boundaries.
Love it. You really beautifully articulated that. I want to throw in there, for the sake of what? It cannot be for money. Money is a metric, not a value. And it
Yeah.
is not for my kids, because your kids have their own purpose. That's not your purpose.
Yes, I love that.
Because I
Oh, I
hear
love
that a
that.
lot. I don't know about you, but I hear that a lot. Oh, I just want
Yeah.
to make money. Well, if that's all you're after, then you're never
Yeah.
going to find fulfillment. You're never going to find joy. That's never going to fill your cup.
Yeah.
Your
And there's
kids
a lot
don't.
of research on that. Like there's a lot of research on profit goals versus purpose goals.
Yeah.
And that purpose goals win every time over profit goals, which is the money goal.
And let's be honest here, Megan and I run for-profit businesses. We are all about
Yes,
making
we do.
money. That
Yes.
there is no shame, any of you women listening, there's no shame in wanting to make money, because that's a whole nother podcast
That's a whole
episode.
nother podcast.
A whole
Oh,
nother podcast episode.
we could go deep on that.
We could go totally deep, but there's no shame in making money, but that is not your purpose. Your
Yes.
purpose is what you want to change in the world. That's what you want, where you want to make a difference. And yes, raising great kids is a great goal, but they're going to go on and they're going to live their own lives. And that's not necessarily going to include you all the time. So you better have something else that you are focused, right? Like, this is the thing. Oh my gosh. I feel like you and I could talk about this for
5 hours. Yes, we could.
This isn't a podcast episode. This is a short movie. Megan, thank you for your time today. I am super grateful for this conversation. This is so powerful, and there is so many beautiful pieces in this conversation. Where do we go to find you and find the book?
Well, thank you so much. Megan Dalla-Camina on all social media handles at Megan Dalla-Camina. And for the book, womenrisingbook.com is the easiest place to go.
We'll include the links in the show notes and in any of the socials that we're going to share. But thank you for saying that out loud so people can find you, because this is really powerful work. I think we all, no matter where we are at in our entrepreneurial journey, we all need to invest time, effort, intention in this work so that we can really deeply connect to who we are meant to be. That's when we're going to show up as our best in our life and in our business. And I love this concept of women rising, Megan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all the work that you do to help women rise and accelerate women. Thank you.
Oh, it's my absolute delight and pleasure. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Female Founder Unplugged podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did hosting this conversation. I feel so lucky that I get to connect with such amazing female entrepreneurs. And if you enjoyed today's session, would you do me a big favor? Would you hit subscribe and give this episode a 5-star review? I'd also love it if you would share with your friends. We've got a goal here at the Female Founder Unplugged podcast to impact 1,000 female founders. And with your help, we can really amplify the message. Thanks again for being a part of the show. And don't forget to connect with me at highvoltageleadership.ca. We'll see you next week.